We are the Liberty Intelligence Organization Network.
And this is our news recap show. I'm your host. You can call me the captain. And we're basically going over the Bill of Rights and the Second Amendment in this special report here. I call it The Final Barriers is the title I gave it in my notes. And basically, you know, I went over an in-depth analysis in the last segment at the end of the Second Amendment and what it means, what it really means. You know, in case you couldn't understand it, I really laid it out there so you could understand it. Now what I want to get into is in how the New World Order is attacking the Second Amendment. Now this comes in the aftermath of the Sandy Hook school shooting. Now it's a terrible tragedy. 20 kids were killed, and it is a tragedy. Nonetheless, it's being used. Those children's graves are being laughed upon, or being stampeded upon by the New World Order, and they're using them. They're propping up these dead children in order to get their agenda across, and that's the wickedness of it all. Now basically what I want to talk about is the abnormalities, because we know 9/11, it's come out now. Operation Northwoods pretty much is a smoking gun. It was planned, it was organized, they knew what was going to happen. It wouldn't surprise me if it was all orchestrated entirely. And then there's all the abnormalities. They happen to be running a drill for the exact same event. You know, all this stuff, and you can go look into it. There's tons of evidence on this, tons of documentaries that relate to this information. And the mainstream news, the mainstream History Channel stuff, you're never going to hear about it. And even if you do watch it, I was watching a 9/11 conspiracy thing on History Channel the other day, just a snippet of it when I was walking past the room where my dad was watching it, and they were basically demonizing, and Alex Jones is actually in it, and they were basically demonizing anyone who didn't agree with the official story. Well, it's obvious the official story was made up, and then when you really go back into history, you learn that Al-Qaeda is being funded by the United States government and trained by the United States government at the time when they were organizing this event. So it all sort of fits together, and now we learn today they're still being organized and trained by the same people. So the reason I mention all that is because the abnormalities in the coverage of Sandy Hook. Now, I have family members in mainstream news media, and they oftentimes take offense when I have to talk about stuff that they don't cover, or stuff that they cover inaccurately. They take personal offense when I talk about stuff. And again, you know, I don't mean to be attacking them personally. I'm attacking the organizations and the institutions, and the ideals that journalism has reverted to. Journalism is supposed to be about independent researchers finding out the truth and then in turn telling people about the truth. But journalism of today is the government tells you something and then you tell the people. And again, that's not journalism. That's just telling you the people what the government told you to tell them. That's propaganda. That's deception. That's not getting to the truth. That's just believing offhanded from a government source just because they wear a suit of authority. You have to understand, man is just man. They are flawed, whether they wear a suit of authority or whether they wear a wife beater and haven't taken a shower yet. They're still just a man, okay? And you should look into everything they say to find out if they're being honest or truthful with you, because you have to measure people by their character, not by their looks, not by the things that they own, not by the clothes that they wear, but judge a person by their character, by their spirit, and by their mind. That's true wealth. You know, physical wealth is only temporary. You can't take this stuff with you. You can't take little earphone mics with you when you go. You can't take water bottles with you. Now, water is important, though, just for life in general, but you can't take video games. You can't take this stuff. And again, you know, YouTube might be like, oh, copyright infringement, you showed a video game. Again, but they might also say advertising. You know, that was Call of Duty Black Ops 2. You know, I'm not really plugging it because it does promote New World Order ideals. But, you know, it's a fun game if you don't let it consume you. What was I talking about? Oh, the strangeness of Sandy Hook. Let me get into it now. The abnormalities of what was going on that day, the mass shooting, and I watched the news coverage. You know, at first, the first story, let me just go through it real quick. The first story they gave you, the first story I heard at least, was that it was a father disgruntled by the schooling system that went to shoot it. That was the first story I heard. Then it changed to it was somebody who came from New Jersey. Then it changed to it was a young kid. Then it changed to there were multiple shooters. Then it changed back to there being a lone shooter. Then they arrested the wrong guy. Then they found a guy in the woods with a gun. Then they chased a car that drove away filled with guns. Then they found the gun that they say he used in the trunk of a car. Then they found 2 handguns in the scene. Then they say the gun that was in the trunk of the car was really in the school. Then they, what? It was just crazy coverage, and I mean, that's what happens when you just believe whatever you're told. If the news just reports the first thing that they're told by the government without investigating, you get that. You get a menagerie of conspiracy theories, and that's really what it all was, and it created this inability to find out the truth. So, and that's that in itself is the MO of a New World Order planned event. If it's so difficult to find out the truth, it can be assassination. It's so mysterious, and the coverage is so terrible, and the investigations are so bad, and then they do a commission later, and then it turns out the commission just agrees with the story that they promoted in the first place. It becomes this strange system, and it's always part of this plan, this big organized event. So that being said, I'm going to do a time check. Because in the aftermath of the shooting is when this really they loaded up their weapons, their information weapons, the propaganda weapons, and they came and attacked the Second Amendment. They demonized the Second Amendment and to pass all these laws. Oh, we demand a change, demand a plan, demand a plan. Well, demand a plan to get rid of the New World Order. That's what you should be demanding a plan for. Demand a plan to get people to be taught how to take care of themselves. Demand a plan to do away with this corporate-run banking cartel that is taking control of the planet Earth. That's what we should be demanding a plan for. Not demanding a plan to take away people who haven't committed a crime's right to own a weapon. To infringe shall not be infringed. Does that sound familiar? Shall not be infringed. They want to use this event to infringe upon a right of individual people. And again, it's an assault on individualism. You lose your ability to defend your person with the weapons of today's standards. And again, that's really what it boils down to. You can still own a weapon. You can have these, a single-shot bolt-action rifle. You can still have a sword. You can still have a bow and arrow. You can still have a crossbow. But again, that's not what the rule says. The rule says arms. The rule says whatever military means are presented in the present day is what I should have to protect myself. So I should have, a Stinger rocket launcher, an AK-47, and a MiG fighter jet to defend myself. Or if I can't afford those things, I should at least have the ability to own those things, as long as I use them responsibly, meaning to defend myself and not to harm other people. So that being said, they're just using this, and I'm going to get into in the next segment here how they're using this and some of the stuff they're introducing. But I just wanted to break it down, and even in Operation Northwoods, since I mentioned Operation Northwoods, full circle. I'm coming full circle here. In Operation Northwoods, they mentioned, go check it out. I did a whole special report on Operation Northwoods. They mentioned staging shootings as a means to disarm the people in order to start, this war idea that they had for the Cubans. And again, they used it with 9/11. That was Operation Northwoods. And again, this is a continuation of Operation Northwoods. Another one you can go check out is Operation Gladio. It's where they use staged shootings to disarm people in Europe. It's their MO. It's the way they operate. They stage attacks, and then they use the attacks to pass laws that infringe upon people's rights. So that being said, I'm going to get into some of this stuff being presented, some of these New World Order agendas being presented in the aftermath of the San Diego shooting. And again, it's a tragedy. My heart goes out to all the people affected by it, but they're using these people, and I think it's disgusting because RIP stands for something. Rest in peace. We should let these children who were mercilessly slain by this psychotic Satanist, and he was a Satanist tied into Luciferianism. Go check it out. Adam Lanza, this crazy shooter, he was a practicing Satanist. Can it tie together anymore? But it was a tragedy. My heart goes out to those people, and my heart goes out to all people who are victimized by the New World Order. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I want to remind everyone, as always, stay safe, stay strong, stay free, and stay informed.